All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott, and as part of my at JPS Jeff Teaches Programming channel, and in particular the playlist Jeff Teaches Programming C#, I'm up to where I'm going to be creating my 7th video. I'm sorry, my 8th. 7th has been created already. I'm starting to work on this BMI application that I'm going to be using for the rest of this course, this one and a payroll one. So let's jump into that. What I did last time, at the end at least, get rid of that, is I have this now. All right. And let's start off by making this my first iteration BMIGUIV as the startup project. All right. And what I'm going to do is the kind of stuff I do when I get ready. So I'm going to change my default location to center screen. I'm going to change the text on there to C# body mass index BMI program iteration 01. Okay, so I've got that. I'm going to make these different colors just because I like doing that. Maybe it's silly, but... And I'm just going to start at the end. So, whoops. So, the back color here, let's start way on the left side. It's going to not be white. It'll be orange. Okay. All right. And let's see. What else do I want? I'm going to change the name of my form. We'll change the name of that to FRM BMI. All right. And I'm just going to keep adding to this as I go on. Okay. And I'm going to try to do a few things, some of which may work and some of which may not, but we'll see what happens. So we've got that, kind of what we did before as far as let's come in. In fact, let's see if we can go back to our GUI. Well, let's build this first. All right, we're going to need, we'll start with a label. There it is. We want to go to the auto size and set that to false. You should know all this already because we've gone over it more than once. All right, we'll make that a different color, a little darker shade. There we go. All right, so we got, that'll be the height. That'll be the weight. That'll be the BMI. That'll be the BMI status. All right, so we'll do those in just a bit. And we will need a text box for each one of those. And we'll need our 3 buttons that we've been using. So I'm going to stretch this out just a little bit. And we'll add our 3 buttons. There's our first one. Make these nice and big. Might actually be a little too big, so let's cut it down a little. That looks good. Okay, there's our second and our third one. Okay, that's not too bad. I'm going to make this a little wider because I like a little bit of symmetry in here. I'm going to make this a little wider. In fact, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab these and I'm going to make these a little smaller. All right, and I'm going to make these a little bit bigger. And I was just thinking, where it says BMI and BMI status here, those actually should be labels. Okay. So let's do this. We'll knock that down in size. Oops, didn't want two of them, only wanted one. And that'll be our status. Okay, that is not bad right now. That's our interface. Let's go as we've done before. Highlight everything. And I'm going to make the font size what I've been using. I think that works pretty well. So we're going to make this Arial, bold, and 18. I think that's pretty good. And it's not a terrible interface. It's not a great interface either, but it's not bad. All right. So we've changed the name of our form, but we haven't changed the name of any of these. So let's start doing that. This one will be LBL height. And actually we'll say here, please enter height. And we'll even let them know the dimensions we're looking for. All right. Well, you can see I screwed up with a capital N there, but we'll fix that. And we will call this LBL height, which, because of the way that I do things, this will now be TXT height. And this will be LBL weight. And I did grab what I'd had in there before, so I'm going to have to put it in and then make a change to it. So this will become weight. And those were 1 through 777. Okay, so I've got those. And this will become TXT weight. All right, this will be then our BMI. So we'll make this, call this LBL BMI. And I'll say body mass index BMI. All right. And this is LBL BMI. Let's change this to LBL BMI STR. It'll be the string for it. And let's make this the actual BMI, because that is the value. So LBL BMI. And we don't want any text in there whatsoever. So that's done. This will make, we'll put in here for text. Whoops, I don't want that. I'm going to do that. We'll fix that in just a minute. This will be body mass index BMI status. All right, and we'll call this one where we've got this. We'll call this LBL BMI status STR for status string. And this one then will be the actual status. So this will become LBL BMI status. And we want no text in there. So we'll get rid of that. All right, let's fix these right away. So I'm going to fix these. And the text align I'm going to set to middle center for these as well. Just set those to middle center. And for here, I'll just set that for the text align to center. So that's done. Let's do our 3 buttons. I'm not sure if this will work. I think it will, though. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. Let's go back to our first GUI app here. that we did a long time ago. And that's the console, of course, that I brought up. I meant to bring up the GUI. So let's bring up the GUI. I'm going to grab all three of these. I'm going to copy them to the clipboard. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to remove these. Now I'm going to try to paste these in. Oh, that's good. So let's highlight all three of these. Unlock them. We'll have to make some superficial changes, but that's no biggie. So right here for the greeting, do we have anything there under greeting click? No, because we haven't double clicked on it yet. Good. So let's come in here and we will change this to calculate BMI. Okay, let's just call it calculate. There. So this will be changed to BTN calculate. And this will stay at clear and this will stay at exit. Now, one last thing I want to do here, and that is to go back to here. Not there. I might have, did I close it already? Yep. So for this exit, I'm just going to grab all that exit code because that doesn't change. So let me copy that. Let me close this. And let me close this. Okay. Now we've got our buttons. So there's going to be our calculate. There's going to be our clear. There's going to be our exit. And with the exit, I'm going to put that in right away. Okay, so I've got that done. Let's see what we have so far. And I believe we set this to center screen, etc. In fact, let's lock our interface. So I'm going to lasso it by drawing everything around it and the right mouse click and choose okay, let's see right now if that part works. Okay, there that is. That's right where it should be. Don't know why it is, but it is. We can put stuff in here. None of these are up. This isn't operational. This isn't operational. This is. Okay, so that all works. Let's do our clear next. And what do we want to do? Well, again, it should be pretty obvious what we want to do here. All right, we want to clear. We want to clear, we want to clear, we want to clear, we want to set the focus. That's it. So txt height dot text equals nothing. Txt weight dot text equals nothing. LBL BMI dot text equals nothing. And LBL BMI status dot text equals nothing. Finally, txt height dot focus. I'm going to pretty this up just a tad, and then we can test that. All right, so let's check that. I always put a little comment here. You don't have to. Code that executes when clear button clicked. Okay, so let's do a file save all. Now I can't put anything in yet because these are calculated fields, but I can put junk in here, and then I can clear, and it all works. So clear works and exit works. Okay, so we have to start thinking about what we want to do when we calculate here. And again, let's go back to our previous iteration of this. So that is the Get rid of that one. And first iteration BMI console. Let's take a look at this code and see what we can grab. I see no reason why we can't use all of these constants, so we will. All right. Whoops. Oh boy, Jeff. All right. So at the top of my program, and I don't remember exactly where we do this, but I'm going to put it right here. I think that'll work fine. There's our constants. Okay. Same kind of thing as before, in that what it's going to do right now is they'll be gray, meaning that they have not yet been used. That's okay. All right, stuff isn't really super lined up. But again, since I'm a little anal about this, sorry. All right, that's good enough. All right, so when I calculate, very similar to the stuff I did before. And what I mean here is, well, we'll use all these. We don't really need the height str and the weight str now, because we're just using the values that are in the text boxes themselves. So I'll just grab this. Whoops. I'll grab these right here. Okay. So I've got those now. And again, they've got the green squigglies because we have not yet used these. And we will in just a bit. All right, now when you click that button, we're going to assume, you know what happens when you assume, but we're going to assume that you have put a value in for the height and that you have put a value in for the weight. But we will check to be sure that that's the case. All right, why? Because that's a good idea to do. All right. So again, I'm going to try to keep this simplistic, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to say we're going to take the height, and first let's check to make sure there's something in there. All right. So if, in fact, you know, one of the reasons that we might want to actually use height string and weight string is so we're not constantly typing in txt height.text, etc. So let's put those in. We'll say string height str, which we'll set equal to nothing. Height entered in text box. And you probably already guessed, we'll have a weight str. And it'll be the weight entered in the text box. So we've got those done now. So I'm going to start by saying this. Height equals, let's not even do that. We'll start like this. If assign text box values to our local variables here. All right, so we'll start by saying height str equals txt height.text and weight str equals txt weight.text. Okay, that'll work even if there's nothing in there. All right, so let's come in and first check for non-existent, for empty height. All right, so if the height str is equal to nothing, all right, what will we do? Well, we'll put in an error message. Set focus to height and return. And we're going to do the same thing eventually for the weight. All right. Now, the good, bad news, whatever you want to say about it, is, let's just do it like this. We'll say message box dot show, and we're going to say here first, no value entered for height. We'll say here height text box empty. Now we'll change this around a little bit just so you see it. And we'll put in here for the buttons, we'll have just an OK, that's fine. And for the icon, let's put error because that is actually an error. All right, then we'll say txt height dot focus and return. So now we should be able to check and see if our height is empty. So let's do a file save all. This is the only thing we're accounting for right now is an empty height. So if we leave that empty, height text box empty, no value entered for height. Well, that's good. Now, I'm going to put other checks in here, but for now, I'm just going to grab all this to right here. I'm going to hit enter a few times, and I'm going to change this to weight. Now I should be able to check that one as well. That's got to be OW. So notice that still getting some squigglies in here, but for height str and weight str, they're gone. So file, save all. Now we should be able to check. I've already checked for the empty height. You saw that already, but I'll put it in again anyway. So empty height text box empty, no value entered for height. So if I put something in there, now weight text box empty, no value entered for weight. Okay, so that's all working. So we've now checked for an empty height. So if we get down to here, all right, something was entered for the height. So we will check for non-numeric height inputted. All right, and I'm going to say here bool result, you can call it whatever you want, that's just a common name, equals, and we will say what was it? I'm sorry, I'm just spacing a little bit here. We did that in our second GUI app. Not there. I don't want that. All right, so that's the line I want. In fact, let's grab all this. All right, it might look a little funky here for a second, but we'll fix it right away. Okay, so result int.try parse, and that's height string. And we want to put the result into height. Conversion failed. Non-numeric value was entered for height. Display error message, clear out txt height, set focus to txt height in return. All right, so that's txt height.text and txt height.focus. Now we should have that done. Let me quick grab that. And we'll do the same thing for weight. Now, I'm sure there's some people who, if they were watching this video, say, you're doing sloppy programming. And you know what? I'm not even going to deny that. Okay. So let's see. In that I'm doing a lot of copying stuff. Okay. Yeah, I am. And one of the reasons for that is when I've done this stuff in the past, some of my videos have stretched over an hour. And it's hard for somebody to sit there that long. All right? And go through all this. All right. Again, let me do a file, save all. And see, I'm already at 26 minutes. This is going to be, I'm probably about half done with this program. So now let me go in and do this. File, save all. You already saw checking for nothing in there. But now I'm going to put in garbage. And non-numeric value inputted, you must enter a number. Okay? Let's put in a number, but we'll leave that as garbage. Non-numeric value inputted, you must enter a number. Okay? Now again, you'll notice I'm starting to use some of the same stuff over and over again. I could even put some of this stuff like stuff like, I don't know, you must enter a number. I could put that in a constant even if I wanted to. Okay. Finally, so we checked for a non-existent or empty height. We checked for a non-numeric height. And now we will do a range check. In other words, between 12 and 96. So if height is less than min height, or, which you use two pipe signs, or height is greater than max height, well, what do we want to do? Okay, again, it failed. So we want to display an error message, clear out the value, and set the focus, as far as I can tell. So display an error message, clear out the height, set the focus, and return. So let's grab this. We'll change the message. Okay. But I don't see any reason why we can't use the rest of it. You must enter a height between 12 and 96. And we'll put here out of range. Out of range height inputted. Let's go back to these where we put non-numeric. Let's change this to non-numeric height. Okay. And I think that'll be everything we need here. But we have to make a similar check for our weight. You've already seen that. So let's come in here, put that in, and we'll change all these. This will be range check weight. And that was between 1 and 777. So that's a W. Whoops, that's a W. That's a W. As is that. And that. And that. And that. Now we want to change the message to weight between 1 and 777, and that'll be out of range weight. We want to go back to the weight and weight. All right, let's double check. We're really getting there. I don't think there's any errors in here, but we'll find out when we try to run it. File, save all. Now, I've already checked for nothing there. I've checked for non-numeric. All right, so let's just see if we put something out of range. Out of range height inputted. You must enter a value between 12 and 96. All right, so stay 77, and let's make the weight out of range. Out of range weight inputted, you must enter a weight between 1 and 777. Now, clear, exit. What do we got left to do? Well, should be pretty obvious. We didn't figure out our status yet, or our BMI. So I'm going to come in here and do this. Because if we get down to here and we haven't returned yet, we can now calculate BMI. Okay, now that's going to give me an error because we have nothing called big BMI like that. So that's fixed that. Now we can calculate the BMI status. All right, let's see if the BMI worked. So what I'll do is I'll say LBL BMI equals BMI dot toString. We'll again do an N and F2 here to 2 decimal places. What doesn't it like? Because it's BMI dot text. There we go. So let's see if that worked. File, save all. So if we put in here 72 and 177, I think that was 24 when we did it before. Okay. Everything's working right now. So now we can calculate our BMI status. So if BMI is less than min, what was it, min optimal? If it's less than min optimal, BMI status equals under. Else, if BMI is less than min over, BMI status equals optimal. All right. Else, if BMI is less than min obese, BMI status equals over. Else, BMI status equals obese. And then finally, we'll have to display the BMI, the BMI status. So LBL BMI status dot text equal BMI status dot toString. We don't even need a toString. It's already a string. So display the status, calculate the BMI, calculate the status. So after calculating, we will display BMI. All right. So with the one that we just did, with 72 and 200, that was overweight. All right, 177. There should be 24 and optimal weight. Good. If we try 100 pounds, that's underweight. If we try 200 pounds, that's overweight. I should be pressing clear here, but I'm not. And 300 pounds, that's obese. Everything is now working. Clear, exit. All right, so I'm already probably 40 minutes into this, 35 minutes, and I think that's long enough for this video. So I'm going to come back and I'll add some comments and I'll go over everything that's in here. So real quickly, how are we going to change this in the future? Well, there's other ways that you can check. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the way we're checking for this stuff. Range checks, etc. But there's other ways you can do some checking. We'll get into that. We'll talk about exception handling and just a few other things as we get going in here. I'm looking at that. I'm going to make that an H and a W. All right, so File, Save All. And I'll be back with that next lecture in just a couple of minutes.